Hi, guys, and welcome to this amazing call. It is April 25th, and it is so exciting to welcome back the conversation to social eating. That means you're being social and there's food. It's a really exciting day in 2021, and I'm really excited to throw the ball to Adi Friedman, one of our best coaches, who's going to give you a perspective, tips, tools, and invite you to participate in all of us being social without food right now so that we can be social with food later.
Hi, everyone. It has been a long time since we had to talk about this subject. And I want to go about this in two different ways because it's been a while since we had to think of how we deal with what's in front of us, the food, the situation. But it's also been a long time since we had to deal with other people commenting on how we're acting, right? And I see some people nodding their heads. So I'm going to go about this in two ways, but if you have any questions, if you have any things you want to add, feel free to write it in the chat or just unmute yourself. So first, there's things that we can control and there's things we can't control. We can control what we're putting in our mouth. We can control, even in certain situations, how we prepare for the event, right? And the event could be a Shabbat meal, and it could also be a barbecue, and it could be Shavuot, and it could be like anything, right? So I'm gonna go about this first with what you can do, our perspective, okay? So obviously there's tips of prepare, don't come hungry to a restaurant, look at the menu before, choose a place where you have an option to have veggies most. If you're going to a restaurant, you know that's maybe just pizza, think of if you could order a salad, what you could bring instead, right? But let's say Shabbat, right? I know for me, I go out a lot to meals, to friends, and it just became of everyone likes a sexy salad. Everyone likes grilled vegetables. Everyone's used to cookies. Everyone's used to cake. It's not already something that like, it's always, and when you go to buffets, usually that's the first thing that gets finished is the veggies. And you could probably ask coaches here that they got asked, so when are you done with this, right? Like I became the veggie person. To every meal, I just bring veggies just because everyone assumes that that's what I eat, so I'll bring, right? I know Yoni, she's like the water person. When you become consistent with your habits, with offering something that you know that you can enjoy, it will also, and we'll get to this, help you with other people's comments. Because when you bring grilled veggies and you dress it with like trina on top and it looks so good, everyone wants that, and people start commenting, oh, like you're on that thing. Like it was really interesting. We had this conversation on Shabbat where if you're in an kind of, in society, people who go to an AA meeting, people who are alcoholic, and you say, oh, I'm not having that, then people will be like, oh, good for you, like kol hakavod, stay strong. But when you're suddenly like, I'm off sugar, suddenly a lot of people kind of look down. Suddenly it's like, oh, you're doing that thing again, like you're off that. It became a society thing where not everyone is so supportive. And that's something that we can't necessarily control. You can't control other people's comments. And something that it's easier said than done. But I know that for me, once I'm not really looking at the chat. So maybe Lily, like if there's something important, unmute or something.
I'm handling the chat. I'm putting notes to what you're
But
saying and handling
something for me, okay. Something that really for me clicked when I truly understood that is that don't change in anything in life, but for sure when you're trying to be on this health journey, any value that you have that you decided is important to you and you decided that this is something that's best for you and your life now, anything that kind of other people look down on, it's not you, it's them. Like you don't have to explain your choices. You don't have to explain your decisions. Anything that someone looks down on, it's maybe because they know they should be on this journey with you or they're intimidated. Don't change your values and your choices at a party, at a restaurant, at a barbecue because someone else is commenting on your plate. That's like it's easier said than done, because usually it's your friends, it's your family. But when you really understand that, okay, it's them, then it really helps with the stress eating. It helps with the emotional eating, that, I'll look at my plate, they'll look at their plate. I want to also talk about something called JOMO. We all know the term FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. When we're at an event and there's something really good, and the alcohol, whatever it is, we have that thing of like, we don't want to miss out. We don't want to feel like, oh, the poor girl on the diet. But if we flip the switch and we look at it as JOMO, joy of missing out, because at the end of the day, everything you're saying no to, you're also saying yes to something else. So when you ask yourself, why am I really here? What's the purpose of this event? Am I here to socialize, or am I here to eat? And when you take a step back and realize, if I will stick to the two bunnies and I can still eat, no one's telling you not to eat, if I can still eat, still have fun, but also focus on actually being social and looking around in your environment. I know for me, when I was really practicing this, I felt like I'm becoming a more social person, because I want to go away from the buffet table. So I would go up to people and say, hi, how are you? And introduce myself and talk. And it kind of made me like look at my surroundings a little bit more and ask myself, focus more on the event and not necessarily only on the food, because I definitely was also that person who was kind of leaning towards the food. So that's also another thing. So just focus really on what's bringing you joy. Easier getting dressed, not huffing and puffing when you're walking up the stairs, running after your kids. Like, focus on the things that what brings you joy. And these small baby step decisions add up and give you that treat that you're looking forward to. That treat may be down the line, not necessarily happening right now, but you will get there. So, Lily, did you want to add something? You wrote to me before that you wanted to add something.
Yeah, so I was having a great conversation with some of you guys this week, and this came from all of you. And I mentioned to Adi, I wanted to share it with you guys tonight. And that's, no matter how many amazing tips Adi just threw out there that I put in the chat, like so many good tips, the background mindset has to be, when I go into any social situation, what version of me do I want to show up as? What version of me is the most confident? What version of me is going to have the best experience? What version of me is going to leave feeling full and satisfied in my social needs being met? And if that's your mindset going in, then even if you want to be the fun person, when you're eating and drinking without paying attention, there's a tape going in the back of your head. I probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm probably going to pay for it tomorrow. I'm probably not going to feel as good. Shoot, this dress that I wore that makes me feel amazing, it's going to be tight. I'm not going to feel as good. Ugh, like, I don't really want to be doing this. You have a lot of conflict. But that's taking away from who you said you wanted to be. You want to be the life of the party tonight? Be the life of the party. I don't think any single one of us goes into a social situation and thinks about who's my best self, my most confident, fun, enjoyable social self, and thinks about what is going to be there to eat. And it's when we are usually, somebody wrote in the chat, done with being social, and it's really time to maybe go home or take a break, that's when these foods look really tempting that haven't been tempting us the whole time when we've been feeling really good. Because all of a sudden we're not feeling really good, and maybe our social muscles are not strong enough to be at this party for 2 hours. Maybe we have about 45 good minutes of our best self and it's time to hit the road. And instead we're like still there feeling awkward. So I'm going to throw the ball back to Adi, but that was what I felt like is the background to all the tips that we really want to discuss tonight, really active things that you can do to want to show up as your most confident self. But if you come to this with this problem and this problem, this problem, this problem, then you're looking for how you're going to always end up being the least attractive version of yourself instead of the most attractive.
Right.
Adi, can
Exactly.
I?
Yeah. You only go for it.
Yeah, I just want like following what Lily was saying because this is somewhat, I think social eating has different levels. There's, yes, parties going out, and there are things that you can do at different situations. But then there's even just the idea, I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that struggles with this, and everybody, here, other people might relate to this too, is forget a social event, but a longer meal or a meal that's not just your immediate family anymore. That has now changed, right? We got so used to saying over the course of this year when we were just our family, we know what works. We can even, I mean, for us, we can even sit around the table for hours, but I know what's there and I know what I'm good with, as opposed to when there are other people, there are then, I guess, other social norm or pressures or so many things running through our head now in terms of the other stuff that's going to be there, the length of time, different stuff that's going on. I know this stuff has been rummaging through my head, and I'm sure it might, also for others.
For sure. And I could even tell you, like, going out, I live in Jerusalem, and going out to meals, it's like a huge like scene. And the food is a very big part of it. And the challah and the chocolate chips in the challah and the sugar crumbs on top. It's like the food is a very big part. And then when people notice that I'm not eating that chocolate chip challah, then everyone comments, and it becomes like this discussion around the table, right? And I don't know if that's just me or other people, but yeah, I remember in the beginning of my journey, I had to how am I dealing with people's comments or being around a table where the protein is chicken with tons of chili sauce and you can't identify the chicken because it's just chili sauce. Like certain foods, when you can't control necessarily the meal, it's not just you're cooking your table, but you now are taking it a step further and going out. What I do is I literally hold on to water, and while I'm drinking, I look at the options and I say, okay, what do I want? If I go home from this meal and I feel like, ugh, gross, I shouldn't have eaten that, then it also ruins the fun with my friends, because now what am I going to think next time? Next time I want to go to them, oh, but if I go to them, I'm going to gain weight this Shabbat, and I don't want to gain weight this Shabbat, but I do want to be with them. And you kind of do 1 + 1, where when you're going out and you don't control your food means weight gain when it doesn't have to be. Um, what I do, it may not work for everyone, so I'm debating if to say this, but what I do is I eat what I'm proud of. I eat what I'm happy with. I bring veggies, I bring salad. And then later, if there isn't a good protein, when I get home, I'll have something. I'll have a yogurt, I'll have whatever. May not work for everyone, but to me, Shabbos is joy. And if I start looking at Shabbos as going to people and not being able to control my food, going to parties, whatever it is, and equals gain weight and not feeling good, then it ruins the fun of the event. So that's personally what I do. When I'm going to enjoy, then I really want to enjoy in every aspect. And it takes time to learn people's comments and to learn how to deal with comments. And they could mean in the best way, right? It could be your family, it could be your friends that they really mean well. But learning how to navigate with what you really want and what's good for you, and you decided because this is what's making you feel good, then other people's comments, other people's cooking, other people's is that what you meant, Ayala? It could be I went way off, I don't know. You're on mute.
I mean, part of it, yes or no. Like, I wasn't even, I haven't been out. I've had other family members in my house. I actually have not been out, not at a social event, not at somebody else's house for a meal. For me, it's even just being more than just our nuclear family. Like I had this Shabbos, my parents were here, so I don't get comments so much anymore like that when I'm in these situations. I am definitely very nervous because I've received comments in the past, people saying, "Oh, what are you taking? What's Ayala taking? Oh, so what should we take?" And I get
Looking at your plate, yeah.
right, and it's if there's something so good about, we always say hold yourself accountable and tell people you're on a journey because they can hold you accountable, and then other parts about it you almost feel like it's backfiring sometimes. But even just at my own house, there are other foods now on the table that I'm finding that I'm having I have to work on the conversation in my head more. I want to hear what Yoni has to say about what I just said.
No, I will tell you something that people are eating now more socially. People are going out to restaurants with other groups. I will tell you that I have now seen proven order first. It will affect everybody around you what they order. If you wait and everyone eats their, double burger, fries, blah, blah, covered in who knows what. I always get my order, if I can, in first. It affects what other people order.
You're
For
setting
some
the tone.
reason, you set a tone, and it may not be everyone's getting salads, but for some reason, you will see those who will never care will never care. Those who do care will somewhat adjust what they would have normally ordered. And watch it happen. Try it and see what happens. As far as at a meal or at an event, and I want to go back because actually Debbie wrote something great, and I do want to maybe have Adi talk about it. But before I was going to say that there's the other side of the coin. I know that we said be your best self. You want to put yourself. Not everybody's an extrovert. Now I'm saying this as the person who is the extrovert, but I know I have many friends who go to an event and it's I don't want to say painful, but that's not where they're at their best. They're at their best at a smaller situation. So very often they will busy themselves with food. It's often a way to not have to interact. In any case, bigger events, and that's where I want to kind of give it off to Adi. Debbie wrote, I think that one of the problems at an event is that they're usually longer than a plain meal, and we may eat right at the beginning, but as the event goes on, it could be hard to keep away from the foods that spread out over many, it's over many hours. And one of the things I want to say is when you go to any simcha, yes, go there, not with an empty stomach. That's like the biggest mistake. B, usually the Kabbalat Panim Shmorg is the best food more than the plated food later on. But go there with something already in your system. Also, just a way to look at an event like that, it is 5 dinners in one evening. Nobody needs 5 dinners in one evening. Keep repeating that. Nobody needs this much food. It's beautiful. It's delicious. Nobody needs that much food. So make a conscious decision. I want to turn over to Adi, like if she has other advice on events where there are multiple courses.
So yes, I've definitely we've all been in situations like this. For me, have to make certain signs that I'm done. So it may be like push my plate a little further, or like push my chair a little back, or refill my water. Certain signs that make a mental note to myself, I'm full, I'm done. I don't need to eat this because it's here, right? That's when you're like, I guess, sitting at a table. When you're at a buffet, then don't go back to the buffet. Go to be with friends. Like it's so much harder to avoid food when you're at the buffet than when you're, deeper inside by the tables talking to friends. That's
Adi, I don't know if you saw Donna's question about when you get home. You've done amazing. You did all Adi's tips. And then you get home and look, like, I know people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm like, this feels to me like I'm one-on-one with every single one of you. So I can be super extroverted. I'm really like a one-on-one, one-on-3 person. If we were all in a room, it would be super overwhelming to me. So like, there was definitely a point where I would get home and like, I didn't overeat there, but it's like the release of tension after you've had to be on for a long time. Anybody here, Adi, anybody in the chat, like, let's all work together on solving these really common things, because they're things that we've all struggled with depending on our personality and our things, and they're totally overcomeable once you get curious as to what could work to help me manage. So have you ever had that kind of opposite situation where you get home and then you overeat because like it's like this let go of being so on at an event?
I'll take it even a step further, that I used to be a person that only eats alone when no one's watching. So when I'm at an event, then I'm totally fine. And then when I get home, suddenly I'm eating a lot. I totally used to be that person. To me, slowly what helped was having ready-made, if I'm deciding I'm eating because I didn't eat properly at the event or whatever, then I'll have ready-made food so that I eat it and I leave the kitchen and I'm done. Like lingering around the kitchen is never a good idea. If I decide I don't want to eat, then I'll walk upstairs. I'll just kind of like, I don't know if it's the best she's have, but I go into my room. I don't go in the kitchen because, like Alana says, like inside, in sight, in stomach. So if I'm not in the kitchen, it may not be in my stomach. That's a shita for me. You have to, it's a lot of it's mental. You have to ask yourself, are you really hungry? Are you not? Are you bored? Are you tired? When you ask yourself these questions, a lot of it, and I used to say in the beginning, think like Lily, because I never used to talk to myself. You really have to practice talking to yourself, having that inner voice of, are you hungry? Are you bored? Are you, like, really touch those emotions? And then ask yourself, could be that getting, like, coming home after the event, it was fun, and just go to bed. Like, I guess it depends on the situation, but a lot of times it's, if I'm not hungry, I'll just leave the kitchen.
This is really resonating. As you can see in the chat, a lot of people are naming social situations where they feel really overwhelmed afterwards. And then like the second their guests leave or whatever, even this has happened to me multiple Shabbases recently. But one of the things that I discovered is having a protocol. And I love the word protocol. It's like the thing I do when this thing happens. So whenever I get home from an event or a kiddush, or even lunch with friends, or my guests leave, and I'm like I could eat the fridge, feeling antsy. So instead of saying I can eat the fridge, I say I'm antsy. I have, if it's hot out, I make a liter decaf iced coffee, depending on the time of day, or caffeinated iced coffee. And if it's nighttime, I make a hot one, if it's like cool out or whatever. And I take that and I do like, it's a liter big, my bottle, and I do 3 stevia and vanilla extract and cinnamon, and then I get the hell out. But I do find that as somebody who's very like activated by all of these amazing people in relationships in my life, I try to be mindful of how I'm interacting with them. And I do have to be on, even with really good friends. And so I need something to help me transition back into like a normal state. So I would suggest, if anybody has any things they found work or any situations in which they've used a protocol when they're feeling activated, to decompress. And then you have a safe place to go. Yoni is raising her hand, and everybody please put stuff in the chat. We'll call on you.
So I'll give you an example. I actually used to, it's coming up to it, but I used to host an open house for Shavuos. It was usually somewhere in the realm of 60 to 80 people were in and out of my house over the course of the day. A lot of food that wasn't necessarily what I want to be eating, but I was making a big spread, putting to the side a portion that I knew would be what I want to be eating for later, because it was this all day thing. So yes, I was kind of doing the veggie thing, but I was hosting. So I wouldn't even sit down for those 4 or 5 hours. When people would leave and I would finally have that moment of silence and that quiet, I already had prepared separately exactly what I wanted to be eating. It was a full portion, it was filling, I would be satisfied with it. But because I pre-planned it, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to stick a spoon in that one and I'm going to have 1 forkful. And then it becomes the bite, lick, and taste where all of a sudden by the end of the day, you've had 3,000 calories and like feel awful. I took the things that I liked that fit with what I wanted, with my goals. I had the treat that I wanted to have, but I was able to walk away without that awful, heavy feeling of having now overeaten. Sorry about that.
Do you want to look around and see who's raising their hand and take anybody else's ideas in our last 10 minutes, guys? This is the time. Please raise your hand. Michal's raising her hand. I'll let you call on people. I'll point anybody out.
I can't unmute though.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they can unmute themselves. And I'll
listen, I always made a lot of vegetables before, but basically since September, and I was the potas, and everyone was living or staying by me or coming to me for meals during Corona. So I was the one who had to cook all the time. I changed the way I cooked for me, and my friends just joined alone. And I made one FFC that I wasn't going to eat. So for dinner, I didn't have the rice. I didn't have the potatoes. So and they still had it. They had kugel, they had roast potatoes, whatever it was. I made my spaghetti squash and then they stole my spaghetti squash. I made my cauliflower, then they stole my cauliflower, right? So now that my friends know, and now the truth is, even when I go out to meals, my friends are like, okay, we got your salad, we got your veggies. Like, they know what to make for me, but they're all eating it too now. So it's not even just my story. It's not even my mindset. Like, it's everyone's mindset, because exactly what Adi says, we're in Katzman, like Baka, like all we do is go out for meals. And now Corona's over, we're really going out for meals. But because I've been doing it for 9 months, it's just automatic.
Also, don't be afraid to go places and ask them, hi, I'm eating a little more mindfully. Would you like me to bring a salad? Just offer, bring it with you so it doesn't become the awkward thing where you're sitting at a table and don't have options.
Right. Which, by the way, that's also kind of, if you're struggling with, this is a different topic, but getting your family on board, then, I mean, that's what I did with my family, like what Michal said, that I was cooking and slowly they started to pick, slowly they started to eat, and that's slowly how they got on board, which is a totally different topic, but it's exactly that. Jen, go for it. I can't unmute you.
That's okay. Okay, I've shared this before in the group, but I'm going to share it again because it's relevant now. But I've been at an event where I really wanted the food, but it was late at night. It was a Saturday night, and it was a barbecue, and I had already eaten dinner, and I was not interested in eating at that point. It does not serve me to eat at that point. Even the deep fried Oreos that they were like shoving in everyone's faces. And I really wanted the food. It was really good smoked meat. And I just made myself a plate and brought it back to my house for the next day. You have to know who you're at, meaning I was comfortable doing that. That's weird if you walk out of a wedding and do that. But I'm saying, like, it was a family event. They didn't care when I was eating it. And I ate it when it served me the best. So, like, you just have to know yourself and know who your hostess is or whatever, and make it work for you.
Love that. Unmute, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I said this before, and I think it's relevant here, where sometimes when we're thinking about what other people are thinking or what other people are saying or what other people might be doing, I know for myself that I'm my worst enemy. That just like so many other in areas of our life where we make up conversations in our head, or we interpret what, we kind of make up what somebody else might be interpreting. And very often sitting at a meal, I'm like doing that on behalf of other people. Oh, they're looking at my plate. They're seeing what I'm doing. They're probably thinking X, Y, Z. Like we always used to say when we would quote Rachel Hollis, somebody else's opinion of you is none of your business. Stop making up conversations. I really find that I then do it to myself. Then I make myself defensive because I've already just put myself on the defense and then the offense, because let me preempt. Let me then preempt what they may forget, what they might say, what they might be thinking. And like Lily said originally, like back in the beginning of this call, like if you are thinking about how you want to show up, what self you want to be at, you want to show up as your most confident self, then be confident. And we all know, like sometimes when we tell we'll tell our kids, or we see it with younger people, or we see it with family members, when somebody says something that's not nice, and we are able to just so clearly from the outside say, that's on them. They're having their own issues, right? But when it hurts us, or when we're second guessing ourselves, because this is a topic that, we all need to eat to live. So food is something that we are all involved in, and like we've said 1,000 times, emotional eating and overeating is an acceptable vice in society. So just that's something that I have to constantly remind myself. It's just that I got to work on my conversation in my head and not worry about the other people.
Right. There's definitely a difference between what you're saying to yourself and what others people are saying. And yeah, it's not always easy to say like that's their issue, because sometimes it hurts because maybe some of it's true, but sometimes it's not. And to make that difference, especially in the beginning, I know I have challengers who that classic comment of like, oh, what are you doing now? Oh, like you're on another diet, or like that classic comment hurts because they're in the beginning of their journey. So they don't know, like, they hope that 2B is the thing, but they're not 100% sure. So yeah, I think a lot of people could resonate with what you said here.
Jane had a
Also,
question.
preparing yourself with one sentence. I'm changing my relationship with food. What is someone going to tell you when you say that? Oh, you shouldn't? Oh, that's dumb. Not a diet. You don't even have to say, I'm on a lifestyle change. I'm on a new program. I'm changing my relationship with food. There isn't a way to twist that unless they're completely twisted, and you will know when it comes out of their mouth, because don't think those moments don't happen.
Right.
But to go in with a sentence in your head, almost like ammo, where you wouldn't go unprepared into a speech, you wouldn't go have that in the back of your head. I'm changing my relationship with food. Done. Conversation ender, or conversation starter in an interesting way.
Jane had a question.
I didn't have a question. I just had a comment that I think also that, like what Michal was saying, I think that sometimes you have to give people more credit than you're giving them. And people have changed the way they eat, not just us. Like it's not all spice and spirit, 50,000 kugels or whatever. We threw a barbecue for Yom Ha'atzmaut, and I told everybody, bring something to grill and bring a vegetable side. So there was I don't eat meat. And so there was an entire buffet table of stuff for me to eat. And everybody was like, ooh, and everybody had plates overflowing with vegetables. I mean, we made like 1 carb French fries for the kids or something like that. Like, we even forgot the pitas. Nobody asked for it. All the people like meat. I think there weren't any desserts. I forgot. And I was like, okay, forget it. And someone brought cookies. So those got eaten, but it was like 1 mana of cookies. Or if you're hosting and people ask what to bring, tell them either to bring a salad so that you have an extra veg, or tell them to bring dessert. I often abdicate completely dessert. I'm like, dessert is on you. And I don't really care if they show up with sorbet and peanuts or 4 cookies. I don't really care. I don't have to make it. And people complain a lot less. So again, I guess it's a little bit of giving up. Like it won't be a creation if that's where you take your pride from, but then I'm also, A, it takes me a lot less time, and B, I'm not stuck with all the leftovers, and I then definitely don't make my favorite thing because I didn't make it. So I think that you have to give people
Jane,
a lot more.
I love what you said.
We're eating like that.
Having other people make dessert. So I'm going to put that back to you because I know that's something you've really mastered. So let's say someone brings something like amazing. How do you very politely navigate that and then make sure that you don't have all the leftovers at your house versus being overly controlling and being like, okay, I'm going to make everything and it's going to be single serving and whatever.
Can we have Jane put that in the chat so Adi can round us out? We have
less than a minute. So, but
a minute left.
in the post, like write in the comments in the post so that you could continue this discussion.
Oh, I give the dessert back at the end. No problem. Yeah. Except for my husband will sometimes protest, but I give it back. I do.
Good idea. And then you're not left with leftovers. So if you guys have any, I hope this topic was like insightful and helpful. But throughout the whole week, we're going to talk about this. So if you have any more questions, any more things you want to raise, feel free to message your coach or in the comments in the group. And I hope you guys have an awesome night.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Thank you so much, Adi.